Hi, if you've been watching our series on the critical leadership qualities, this is the third and final video in that series. We've talked about leader as model, we've talked about leader as coach, and today we're going to focus on leader as facilitator. My name's Simon Tyson. I'm the CEO of the Real Learning Experience. The role of leader as facilitator is bringing a team together, taking a diverse group of people with different perspectives, different backgrounds, different motivations, and bringing them together into a group that works well together and shares a common goal. To highlight the importance of this, I'm going to ask you, have you ever worked in a team that worked really well together? Have you experienced the exhilaration, the energy that surrounds that sort of team? On the other hand, have you ever worked in a team that didn't click, that didn't function? And have you experienced the lack of energy, the demoralisation of having to go through the drudgery of working each day in that sort of environment? The difference in those two environments is profound, and it has a massive impact on both the morale and the performance of the team. I'd like to highlight that for you by sharing with you an example of an organisation I worked with a number of years ago. I had a call from a sales manager who told me his team was dysfunctional and invited me to come and meet with him. At the meeting, he explained to me the interpersonal issues, the conflict, the poor communication that was happening in his team. I asked him what he'd done about it. He explained to me that he employed adults. He expected them to behave like adults, and he didn't feel that he should have to teach them what was appropriate and what wasn't in the workplace. Of course, this started to flag for me some of the potential issues, and I listened as he went on to explain other workplace dynamics. As he was discussing this, an argument broke out amongst two people out in the sales room. I listened with interest to see how he'd respond. At first, he went on talking to me, as though the argument wasn't happening. I found it difficult to concentrate. I was fascinated to see what the next steps would be. After a couple of minutes, he looked at me and apologised, said, "Mate, would you give me a couple of minutes?" I thought, this is going to be really fascinating. I'm going to see firsthand how these sorts of dynamics play out in this workplace. He stood up, walked round the desk behind me and kicked the door shut with his foot. He turned to me and said, "Sorry mate, you shouldn't have to listen to that sort of rubbish." In that one moment, I understood one of the significant causes for the issues he was having in that workplace. Now, since that time, we've developed a strong relationship with that organisation and with that manager. We've coached that manager to become a better leader. And one of the things that we discovered, and that he was very honest with us about, is that he was intensely uncomfortable getting involved in conflict between other people. He was intensely uncomfortable interfering, as he saw it, in the dynamics that naturally occur in a team. Of course, as you become a leader, those sorts of dynamics between people become your responsibility as a leader. In fact, it's inevitable that when you put together a diverse group of people with different perspectives, goals, backgrounds, etc., that they will conflict. In fact, if your people don't have any conflict, that's more unnatural and that's more unhealthy. Having said that, conflict that runs unchecked, that happens without parameters, without boundaries, without values, is also incredibly destructive. What this manager needed to do was be prepared to facilitate as his people learnt healthy ways, healthy boundaries and values surrounding their interpersonal communication and the way they engaged in conflict. Just as a starter, I'm going to give you 4 things that I believe the leader as facilitator needs to take a proactive role in. And the first of those is conflict. The absence of conflict is unhealthy, But bad conflict is also unhealthy. In fact, I'd go so far as saying it's destructive. I've seen many workplaces that have become toxic because the conflict is not handled effectively. Your role as facilitator in conflict is to give your people the principles to make it healthy and safe to have conflict, but to ensure that it doesn't spill over into personal aggravations and things that linger on in the workplace and become cancerous. You do that by setting standards. You do that by being leader as model, as we discussed in a previous video. The way you personally deal with conflict sets a standard for the people in your team. The second area I like to see leader as facilitator being proactive is in standards of communication. And I'm talking here about everyday communication. It could be seen in the way ideas are shared and accepted. It could be seen in the way different opinions are discussed and there's a forum in which it's safe to express those. This can also be seen in how much people communicate. Do they go out of their way to connect with each other, or do they tend to work in isolation? Do they have some fun in their communication as well as simply discussing workplace issues? The third area of proactivity for leader as facilitator is in making sure the team is committed to a common goal. When you bring people together, it's highly unlikely they arrive there with the same goals and the same aspirations. Your job as leader as facilitator is to get them to unite in the pursuit of something that serves the whole team. Your job as leader as facilitator is to help individuals achieve what's important to them in service of achieving the team goal. The fourth thing I'd love to see you focusing on as facilitator in your team is celebration and enjoyment. As leader as facilitator, it falls to you to make sure that when your team has achievements, they're recognised and they're celebrated. It falls to you to make sure that in amongst that head down, backside up team spirit of getting great results, there's also time for the team to have some fun and come together in a spirit of enjoyment. I hope you've enjoyed this series on the 3 critical leadership qualities: leader as coach, leader as facilitator, and the first one, leader as model. If you enjoy our videos, why not share them with the full leadership team in your workplace to make sure you all get the value from the learning they offer. Thank you again for watching.